Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another Pay It Forward. I am your host, Leo Schofield, alongside with my partner, Brandon. And today we have a special one for you guys again. This is a person who's went from, the college years to ultimately working for the Detroit Pistons. So this is definitely one for all those people who are Detroit Pistons fans. And, I am excited for this one. So please introduce yourself and please tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Cool. Hey, everybody. My name is Gabrielle Reed. I'm the Human Resource Coordinator here at the Pistons. I'm entering about my third season. So I run our internship program. I help out with engagement, culture, any of our HRS management, so employee filing tools. And I also help out with early career development. I used to help out with recruiting, but we've since hired a recruiter, so she takes that on full time. I am a graduate from Wayne State. I went there for grad and undergrad. Prior to coming to the Pistons, I spent a little bit of time at the Houston Rockets as well as the Houston Grand Rapids.
Yeah, I definitely saw that, and I was like, oh, snap! So you were definitely all universal in the sports industry, and I think the biggest question a lot of people would have for you, especially as well as myself and probably even Brandon, would be was sports something that you always wanted to get into while you were in college, or was that just something that you developed as a kid?
No, my undergrad degree is in media arts and related studies. So I was supposed to be like a talk show host, have a radio station. I was supposed to do all of those things. Um, but the way the pay was set up at that time, that didn't really work for me. Um, so I actually worked for T-Mobile all through undergrad, and then I started coaching with Detroit Pistons. I was a cheer coach, and through getting into coaching and working with kids, that's when I decided I wanted to be in sports. And through some of those interactions, I decided I wanted to be in HR. So, all right, we decided to go back to school. I got my master's with a concentration in human resource management, and I double concentrated in sports and entertainment management as well. Initially, I wanted to have a cheer gym, and it developed into, oh, well, maybe I could do HR and be at the forefront of helping some of those kids, some of those students get into these sports programs, and just know that there are jobs in sports and really kind of help push that word out.
That's it's amazing to see how, like, even though you went through some of the challenges that you did and faced, you still say, hey, I'm gonna get my degree. I've already been working on it. I'm gonna knock it out. I'm gonna get that degree, and I'm gonna make sure I put in 100% effort and opportunity, and I'm gonna give myself the best opportunity I can. So a personal question, and this is not something I normally do on my lives, but what would be your favorite team out of all the basketball teams?
Okay, so I'm biased because I work at the Pistons, so love them, right? So if you take them out of the equation,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't have favorite teams rooted in like actual facts. I have favorite teams rooted in, oh, Houston's fun. I love it there. Arizona, the jersey color is totally a vibe. Like that's how I base my favorite team. There's no strategy in that whatsoever. Outside of course, I always have to root for the home team.
Now, going back to what you said with you working with the Rockets, was there a little, and this is just a personal question, was there a little tension of when you went to the Pistons and they looked at your resume and they're like, oh, you work for the Rockets, or was it like,
No,
oh,
not
mm-hmm,
at all. Once you're in sports, people completely understand. A lot of people don't stay at the same team forever, right? A lot of times when you look at employees, their whole tenure may not be with the same team. And that's the nature of sports. That's kind of the evolution of people within the sports world. You might spend a little bit of time here, you might spend some time there. Granted, there are some people who have been blessed to stay with one team their full career, but most
mm-hmm.
of the time, you do see people who kind of go from team to team, and sometimes it's not even team, right? Sometimes it's leagues to leagues. People might go from the NBA to the NFL, then back to the NBA. If you want to be in sports, there's only so many jobs and so many openings just because there's not very many teams. So people are completely fine with the bouncing around. Not too much, though, right? You don't one of those people who people kind of start to think like, oh dang, they go from team to team. They don't sit still, right? Where people kind of question your commitment issues a little bit, but typically it's fine, right? You've outgrown a position here, or this position was canceled, or you got new owners, or whatever may happen. So it's totally fine.
Gotcha. That that's one of like the biggest like insiders because for me I was like, man, I feel like I thought there'd be like a tension or something. I didn't know that they're all just like, hey, we all work in sports. We're all a collective group of individuals that, we want the best for this industry and we want the best for the NBA in general. So why not just work together? And, if you do decide to move or whoever, wherever, or switch up on teams wise, it's not going to be any drama for that fact, and that's pretty awesome. That's like it's like being in the military and kind of switching branches, and then you're all serving one nation, right? We're all serving the United States of America, and that's how it's kind of like how the military rolls in that aspect. Um, Before I continue to keep going, Brandon, do you got anything real quick, brother?
Oh yeah, good. Well, one, nice to meet you, and I'm a prior service veteran too as well. So work hand in hand with Leo, and we've actually had the opportunity to place a couple of our guys who are transitioning, guys and gals transitioning out of service into some sports industry roles. More so on the IT department, and then like also too in like military engagement for folks and whatnot. But a lot of the questions we get asked too is directly in line with, are there any barriers that you know of, which you working in the sports industry? Are there any maybe some things that people don't really tell you before you get into working in the sports industry? Are there any barriers to entering the industry that you've seen?
I think the only barrier, and it should be a pretty known barrier, is that it's very competitive, right? There's
Yeah.
only so many teams and there's only so many openings. So when you're looking to get into sports or get on these teams, we really look at your experience. And your experience does not mean you have to have done this exact job, but how can you position your experience so that's relatable? Did
Mm,
you join any clubs, right? Are you in any volunteer groups? In the military, what transferable skills do you have that can directly align to this role? I don't need you to have done this specific role before, right? I just need to know that you can be taught this role based off previous experiences. And that's one of the hurdles that people don't seem to understand, or they kind of gloss past. They're like, oh, yeah, I can do it if you teach me. But your resume doesn't speak to the fact that I can do it if you teach me, right? What we're
right.
doing is your resume and your cover letter. If that doesn't give me the bare minimum, then we won't get to the point to where we can even talk about it for you to explain that, hey, I can do it if you teach me.
No, I completely agree with that, and I think that's some very good note for our folks out there to hear as well. And then the only other question I had initially right now was, so for folks who are looking to get their foot in the door in the sports industry, um, what if any social media tool was something that was powerful, which social media tool would it be? Would it be LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter? Is that something that you guys look at when you're searching for candidates or looking for people?
I would definitely say LinkedIn is by far the top social platform. If you are on, if you're messaging somebody on Facebook, that can get kind of creepy, right? It's a
That's
little
true.
I'm like, you probably should not DM recruiters on Instagram. That is definitely weird. But LinkedIn, right? If you keep it to a professional platform, that is the absolute best place for you to go. If you do not have a LinkedIn profile, it's never too late to build a LinkedIn. I definitely recommend get your LinkedIn set up. And your LinkedIn doesn't have to be as formal as your resume, right? Like your LinkedIn, you can show a little more personality, you can show a little more pizzazz, you can talk about who you are, but it still needs to be professional and concise and precise enough to where, as a recruiter, if we're searching for people with experience in a certain role, we're searching for someone who has photography experience or someone's interested in business intelligence, your profile still needs to tell us that you have some of that experience. Or you can use your profile to reach out to us, right? You can reach out to people In that role that you're interested in, you can say, hey, can I talk to you for a second? Just want to pick your brain about your experience. You can look at people's profiles to see what different type of pathways they've taken to get where they are. And you'd be surprised. Like, it is not a straight path. Some people have done every job imaginable before they got to where they wanted to be. And some people's pathway, oh, that made sense, that made sense, that made sense, right? But going through LinkedIn, you find out who's posting a job. You can find a job, find friends. LinkedIn for professionals is definitely the absolute place to start. And you can get the free one. You don't have to have the free one either. Like, the free one's cool because I got the free one.
Separate out of the military, right? And that's where they start talking about, hey, you need to create a LinkedIn profile and everything. But I feel like it's never too early to create that LinkedIn profile. And you hit the nail on the head. And I think all these guys who are listening, guys and gals, will be able to hopefully get that LinkedIn profile set up.
I had a high school student reach out on LinkedIn. I don't even have opportunities for high school kids. We don't hire high school kids. She also was in like Florida, and I was just so impressed that as a high school student, you had a LinkedIn profile to reach out and ask for a conversation. So I'm like, sure, let's talk. Let's absolutely talk and have a connection, right? So like you said, it's just never too early.
Yeah, that's true. That's amazing.
And I definitely agree with you guys on that because, coming out fresh out of the military, still learning the ropes on, how to slow life down and get back into the works. Me developing my LinkedIn had taken time and patience, not from just me, but for the people teaching me and how to utilize LinkedIn. And this will bring me to my next question as well with networking. So from your standpoint, Gabrielle, how would you rank networking when it comes to like finding all these types of sorts of people or people in your community, or even like when it comes to looking for a job or even building your LinkedIn connections? How important was it for you to kind of like network in your area?
For me, networking was super important simply because I was just getting into sports. I got into sports as a grad student. So I had 2 years before I graduated to figure out where I was going. I had already decided when I graduated, I'm moving to Houston. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a job. I just knew I was moving to Houston when I graduated, right? So I had to do a lot of networking to make sure that I was able to make that happen. But on a daily, I think it wasn't just my networking. Yes, people were impressed that a girl from Detroit flew all the way to Houston for a networking workshop, right? But it was about networking efficiently. So not only did I go to these events and I met people, but before I had a conversation with them, I looked up who was going to be there. I found some commonalities. I found some talking points. So I was a little strategic in my networking. So that way, when I got a chance to speak to these people, I'm talking to them directly about things that are applicable. And we can have a good conversation because I did a little bit of research beforehand. And in addition to networking, you can network all day long, right? What else do you have to back it up? Networking is just a piece. Yes, you've made these connections and these people want to hire you and they're invested in you, but do you have any experience to back it up, right? Do you have any previous attributes that can kind of align with why you're going to be hired? Do your core values align with this company as well? Yes, you know them. Tons of people can say, like, yeah, I know Gabby at the Pistons, but does Gabby know you? It's not who you know, it's who knows you. So when those positions come up, do they think about you? Right? That's the position that you need to be in.
Gotcha. I know just from like networking and what I've learned about it, if your connections, it's okay to have below 500, but I was told that uh, over 500 or about 500 connections is what you should try to get to establish a solidified LinkedIn. Do you have a say so on that as well?
Listen, don't get me to lie on 500 plus or 500 negative. I do not know that deep into LinkedIn. LinkedIn,
Hmm.
I would say build out your full profile, right? But you're making meaningful connections. So yes, you can connect with people that you know, friends and family first, but you also want to start connecting with recruiters. You want to connect with people who are in industries, in jobs, and in fields that would help align with where you want to go, right? So when those people are posting new positions, you know about it. But when people are talking about what that company or what that job is doing, you know if you're following those people. Follow companies so that way you know what type of events they're having. Follow articles, follow pages, but I would caution to following like, hey, I'm just gonna follow whoever, so that way I have 500,000 bazillion plus on LinkedIn. Granted, you do need to establish your page, and it's not just about the connections. What are you doing? Do you post? Do you comment on other people's pages? Do you like? Do you share? Are you an active user? Because if I'm looking for a candidate and I'm on LinkedIn and I show that they don't have any activity, I'm just automatically assuming that, hey, when I reach out to you, you're probably not going to respond. Granted, I try not to let that stop me from reaching out, but more if you're an active user, then
Yeah.
I'm going to respond. So I've messaged tons of people who would clearly be great fits for roles just based off what they've done in the past. And by the time they've logged into LinkedIn, that position has filled.
Mm.
So yes, it's nice that you got back to me, but you got back to me 2, 3 weeks later, and we're already so far along in the interview process. So I
Hmm.
definitely say yes, make those connections, but make meaningful connections. Be active and ask people like, hey, could you endorse me on LinkedIn? Hey, could you leave a comment? Could you tag me in places?
Mm.
Like throughout your military network, if you guys all like connect with each other and then start like commenting on each other's things or sharing each other's things, eventually enough of you guys will have enough movement to where you push your pages to the top of each other's connections.
Mm.
Gotcha. And that's something that, you know, I love about our military community is once you start connecting with each other, it's like they're already here to help, and they just wanted you, or they're looking for somebody to just talk to. And sometimes, um, people use LinkedIn for professional, but it's okay. I'd say it's okay to, you know, get to know somebody. Get to know somebody. If you guys have a common background, it's okay to get to know people as well. That's what networking is all about. And
I mean,
to pause on that note real quick, we do have a question in the comments.
okay.
Um, Somebody asked, how often do hiring managers in the sports profession look outside the industry for talent?
So we oftentimes look outside the industry for talent, right? It depends on the role. So we don't just hire from within or within the industry. If we post a position online, everyone is open to applying. Granted, there are some roles to where we do need you to have sports experience, and that
Mm.
depends on the level of the role. If you're more in management or depending on the specific type of role, we might need you to have some background.
Mm.
Whereas myself, my background in sports wasn't necessarily in HR. The
Mm.
next HR person we hired, our recruiter, she's never been in sports at all. This is her first sports role, and that's completely fine. But there are specific roles, like our team photographer, we need you to have been in, preferably the NBA, but in some type of sports field would be fine. So it just truly depends on the role. If
Mm.
we need you to have sports or league experience, or if we can just take some type of sports interest for sure.
Mm.
A lot of like our team security reps or our building security reps, a lot of them are in the military. We've also had like one of our team trainers. She was our former team trainer. She was in the military as well. So we got to get people from all over as long as you can do the job, right? That's really what it boils down to. Do you meet the requirements as listed on the job description?
Mm.
So, going back into the job requirements and the job description, Gabrielle, um, and resumes, and this actually ties in perfectly again. What would make, people who are just trying to write a resume or struggling to write the resume, what kind of make the resume stand out, from your standpoint? If it's like, because I've heard a lot, I've heard, you can try to use AIs, but I would like to hear your opinion on resumes.
I'm scared of AI, so let's just throw that out there. Like, definitely terrified of AI, so I would like to go away from that. But it's not about um, what will make your resume stand out to a certain
Mhm.
extent, right? Everybody has their own like tips and tricks to how you make your resume stand out. Your job description is like your study guide in high school. That is your cheat code. Your job description is going to tell you what you will be doing and what I need you to have been what I need you to have experience doing already. So truly using the job description as a basis to make your resume, that's what's going to make you stand out, right? If you go above and beyond, so instead of using the standard white background and Times New Roman, if you want to play with font a little bit, you want to add a little bit of color, those things helps your resume pop. Making sure you have an objective or a subject, just some type of like little header so that way people know a little bit about you. And in addition to your resume, if you really want to stand out, it's your cover, right? The cover letter is what makes you stand out. Everybody has a resume. Half of the people who apply don't have a cover. So that is what positions you. Your cover letter gives you a chance to expand your experience outside of your resume. Now you can talk to me more about how, yes, I was in the military, but this is how it's looked. Or my last job was in customer service, but based on that, I think I'd be a good fit for the ticket sales department.
Mm.
Your cover letter is where you get to truly explain what's on your resume and beyond. So I think that's what really makes people stand out. And if you're having a hard time starting with your cover letter, yes, you can pay someone to do your resume. If you decide to go that route, I would definitely look for someone locally opposed to using those like standard buildmyresume.com. Those type of places are typically a lot more traditional and they don't keep up with some of the modernizations and the changes in the time. But if that is not your vibe and you don't want to pay for somebody, please just go to Microsoft, right? Microsoft Word has templates already for you. So
Mm.
find a template, use that template. If you're familiar with Canva, they're a little more pricey. You can use some of those templates as well. You can definitely start with a built template and build your resume to fit that job.
Gotcha. Because I know when it comes to even getting an initial interview for recruiters, I was told that you guys look at thousands of resumes every day or throughout a week, and you look at the qualifications, look, you kind of verify everything, and then if it's like, oh god, this you might have a few candidates that put down like they might have certifications or qualifications that you see, and they might like try to word play it wrong, or they'll mess it up in a way, and it's like, next one, or it'll be like, well, because some of the recruiters that we talked to or had it on the live, should I say, they were like, look, I go through resumes and they look bad, or if they like put like they had 10 jobs and then another 20 jobs, just flip it. They just flip through hundreds. And by what you said, yeah, I believe as well that doing a cover letter, it's not going to hurt anybody. It's only going to be there to benefit you and help you in the end. So I definitely got to work on mine. Um, Brandon, before we kick this last part off, you got anything else, brother?
No, I just wanted to echo that sentiment. Is well, one, going back to the networking piece, a closed mouth don't get fed, right? So if you ain't reaching out to folks and letting them know, hey, can you help me? Can we connect? Folks won't connect with you, so you have to open your mouth. You have to be active. So I wanted to touch on that one too, and then exactly what you said about the cover letter piece. I totally agree with that because you know I think every industry is a little bit different, right? And it depends on kind of who's the hiring manager and who's the recruiter at the time. But if the job doesn't require a cover letter, just my opinion, why not send it up? Because that's something that they may look at and take into consideration, and you can expand, like you said, Gabriella, on your experiences. So even if it doesn't say don't have a cover letter or just resume, why not if you have it, right?
Absolutely. Like cover letters are simply because there's so much scrutiny around do you need a cover letters or don't you need a cover letter? I would much rather tell people to have it. And if you have it and you don't need it, great. Then you stumbled across a recruiter who wanted it and then you didn't have it, right? It's just easier to err on the side of, hey, I always have it listed so that way just in case. the standard recruiter is off on maternity leave and they have somebody else fill in who's a stickler for coverage, right? It's something that's gonna, and it really helps you. It helps you further explain who you are, and it gives you another touch point to explain why this role is the perfect fit for you.
Agreed. They say, hey, stay ready so you ain't got to get ready.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm
You know?
I definitely agree, Gabrielle. This was an amazing, podcast. One of my favorite. It was definitely nice to enjoy, to have a casual conversation, and I truly do appreciate you not helping just me, but anybody who is struggling right now with resumes, networking, and all that, to get a little feedback from your professional standpoint as well. So I guess me and Brandon, the biggest question that we always ask is there any advice you'd like to give vets or anyone who would want to work in the sports industry or even try to follow a similar path as you did?
First, if you are trying to follow a similar path as mine, I would definitely say feel free to plot twist. It's your story, so you write it how you. If you decided you were doing something else and now you want to go to a completely different industry, that is completely up to you, right? Don't feel pressured to stick to one path. If you find that you're passionate, you're good with something else, feel free to plot twist. Change your story if you want to. But my biggest piece of advice is to be patient. And a lot of times it's easier said than done, that I understand. But sports, and especially networking, is the long game. I met my
Mm,
boss 2 years before she had a job open for me, right? But
mm,
I stayed consistent. I had touch points. Hey, just check in. Hope you're doing well. Hey, hope you're staying safe throughout COVID. I made sure to stay on top of things. And eventually, a job opened. And yes, her and I had that connection, but I also had the experience to back it up. When I met her 2 years prior, she said, if you're going to be on my team, you need to learn how to do this, 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 this. So 2 years later, when I had my interview, I said, hey, I learned how to do this, this, and this, right? So
mm,
sometimes it's about being patient. You might not get the first job, right? You might not get the second job. You might not get every job that you're qualified for. Someone may be a little bit more qualified. Somebody
mm,
may be a little bit less qualified, but they network a little bit better. So truly be patient with yourself and your process. I would also say don't be afraid to reach out to people. Don't be afraid to ask people for a casual chat or a casual conversation just to get that touch point and to hear from them. If if you have the means and you can take like an internship or an apprenticeship just to get your foot in the door, I know it's a little humbling of an experience, but definitely if those opportunities are there and you can deal with either the pay or the hours, I definitely recommend taking that. And think outside of the box a little bit, right? Like we have a lot of security roles that we hired former military for. Actually, one of our folks was a security rep, and then he turned intern, and now he's here full time. So his role was a little different. Sometimes just starting somewhere, you get more exposure to the building. You get a chance to see people every day. You get a chance to say, "Hey, do I even want to work in sports?" Because it sounds all fine and dandy until you have to work 40 games. You got 3 games back to back, and you you go to work at
mm,
you get home at 12, right?
mm,
So
mm,
sometimes getting that second look in, but truly be patient with yourself, be understanding, and be proud of yourself. You
mm,
served in the military, you're putting yourself back out here, you're trying to find a job, you're reaching out to people, you're doing everything that you possibly can. So just be proud. Sometimes we're a little hard on ourselves. So be proud of yourself. And yes, we do have security roles available now. So if anybody is interested, we have roles on Teamwork Online. And just so you guys know, a lot of the sports teams hire on Teamwork, and that's where we are. We have a couple security roles that we're interested in. We have a photographer role if you have some experience with photography. There's a couple of things on there, so definitely take a look and put yourself out there.
I totally agree. And definitely after this live, I definitely think we can help you out with those roles as well. But before even that, again, we want to both thank you so much for hopping on this live, taking time out of your day to just talk and really help, you know, veterans and anybody who needs help again with resumes networking, cover letters, or just want personal advice, and telling your story, and just being somebody who just took time out of your day to really get on here. It really does mean a lot to us in Seven Eagle. And on the behalf of Seven Eagle, we want to thank you personally. So thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
y'all for having me, and thanks to everybody who listened. This was so cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. All right.